All right, so real quick, we're going to talk a little bit about time zones, and universal versus military time, things like that, specifically as they relate to flight planning and filling out your Gantt charts. So the time frames that most people are used to are the idea of AM and PM, so antemeridian, postmeridian, the morning and the night, starting at midnight. So 12 a.m. is midnight, and that runs 1 a.m., 2 a.m., all the way through until you hit noon, and then you're past the meridian, you're post meridian, so it's PM, it's the afternoon, and that runs from 12 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to 11:59, with 59 seconds until it clicks back over and you have the new day. Okay, so this is the time schedule that most people are used to, this AM PM slot. The problem with this time system when it comes to flight planning, and especially international travel, is that there are things called time zones. And that's one of the issues. Another issue is that if you happen to be talking to somebody and you say, hey, I'll meet you at 6, well, does that mean 6 in the morning, 6 in the evening? So there had to be a way to find a simpler method to communicate whether it's morning or evening without any miscommunications. Okay, that way if you hear 1 o'clock, you know exactly when it is, and if the radio cuts out on your plane, you'll know whether it's morning or afternoon, things like that. So to do that, what happened is we looked at the entire day as a single unit. Rather than morning and night, it's just a single day that's 24 hours long. And we're going to ignore leap seconds and all that other stuff. But a single day is 24 hours long. And so military or 24-hour time, okay, just takes into account that there are 24 hours in a day. So 12 a.m. or midnight becomes 0 hours or 0 hours. Okay, that's saying it's the very first hour there. 0 hours have passed from the start of the first day. Okay, 1 a.m. becomes 0100 or 1 o'clock. Okay, so 1 hour has passed since the day began, and it moves all the way around. And it stays the same until just after noon. So noon is 12 or 12 hours past the start of the day. So our day started here, moves all the way up, and hey, we're at 12. We're in the middle of the day. We're the dead center of our 24-hour day. After that, well, instead of going to a PM, we just say, well, it's now the 13th hour of the day. A grand total of 13 hours have passed since the start of the day. And it goes all the way back to 23 hours. So all the way back, there have been 23 hours past. That's 2,300 hours, or 11 p.m. Now, why do we use this? It's just for simplifying communication. Okay, it makes sure that everybody knows whether we're AM or PM, what time of day it is, no matter what's going on. Now, how do you convert back and forth? Well, the easiest thing is that if you're talking about a morning time, it's just 1 through 12. Okay, so if it's the morning, it's just 1 through 12. But if it's in the afternoon, you just take whatever the number is and add 12 to it. So if it's 1 in the afternoon, well, you add 12 to 1, you get 13. So this is hour 13. If it's 7 o'clock at night, well, you add 12 and you get 19. So it's the 19th hour of the day, or 1900 hours. Okay, so that's the basics of military time, or 24-hour time, is the idea that the day is split into 24 equal hours, arranged throughout the day, rather than two 12-hour morning and nighttime notation. Okay, now, how does this work when we're talking about flight planning and UTC or GMT? Well, that has to do with time zones. So this is a basic time zone map. Now, I'm going to use UTC and GMT interchangeably because for our purposes, they're the same. Now, in reality, they're really not. UTC has to do with the Earth's rotation and atomic clock timekeeping, and GMT is currently just a time zone. But because UTC and GMT use the same location for their 0 hour, it works out the same for what we're talking about. So everything is considered part of a time zone. These were established decades and decades and decades ago, actually back in the 1800s, when clocks and the pendulum clock became more common. And specifically, it started in Greenwich, which is in the United Kingdom. And you'll notice that this strip right here, this 0 hour, is also called Greenwich Mean Time. It's sort of the starting point for all of our time zones and time periods throughout the world. Okay. So what you do to convert between your local time and UTC, GMT, it's also called Zulu time, is you have to figure out where you are in relation to this time zone. So, for example, if you're in the United States and you happen to be in Dallas, right here, this is considered in the United States is considered the Central Time Zone or Central Standard Time. Okay, you'll notice if you follow this color up, you'll notice we're at -6. And so if you start here, you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that takes you back to Greenwich Mean Time. So that means there is a 6-hour difference between local Central Standard Time in the United States and the 0-hour Greenwich time. So if it is 6 o'clock here, so 6 a.m. or 0600, it means that our Zulu time, our GMT, our UTC time, and again, those are all basically the same thing for our purposes, is 6 hours beyond that. So 12. So 6 a.m. here becomes 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12 p.m. here. Okay. Same thing happens if you happen to be in the Eastern time zone. You notice it's at -5. So if we start here at, say, 1300 hours or 1 p.m., so 1300 hours becomes 1400, 1500, 1600, 1700, 1800 hours, okay, in that general GMT time or Greenwich Mean Time, UTC time, okay? So when we're talking about converting, you just have to know where you are and then add the appropriate number to your chart, okay? Now, for the purposes of our Gantt charts, we're going to assume that the times we're given are already in UTC just to simplify your life. But that's something that's important for you to know how to do is look at a time zone map and figure out where you are versus where Greenwich Mean Time is, because that tells you sort of the universal time that you can compare with anybody on the planet.